Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Raine and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome. We have another episode in our Quantum Conversation Summit series, Energy, Healing, and Well-Being. And today we are going into the realm of quantum healing and so much more with my guest today, Taya Raine, who is here. She has been a beautiful teacher in breath work and is expanding into so many areas supported by beings from the illumined realms. Hi, Taya. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
So when we're talking about energy healing, can you give us a definition of what that means to you in your world when you work with clients and yourself? What is energy healing as you can describe it?
Sure, great question. And I'll also just clarify that this is work that I've been doing for a really long time as well. So I do mostly breath work on this platform, but this healing work I've been doing since I was 23. I primarily have done it in person and one-on-one, and then recently I decided to bring it online. The breadth of Tara healing is so vast, and what I want to speak to right now is that I think everyone needs healing, right? In some way or another. People have things from the childhood or traumas from adulthood, perhaps even past lives, that need to be healed. And so the way that we work with healing in the Tara method is essentially to bring you within and help you to kind of find your breath and find the places within your body where the energies are stuck. And then we use a kind of a wide range of modalities that are in that healing basket of the Tara method in order to help you to really track within yourself what needs to be healed. And at the same time, there's light that's coming through me that's working with the group or the individual. And in this case, it'll be a group. So it's really exciting to be a part of a group healing where everybody's working on something at the same time. And the results are always phenomenal. Everything from a very subtle shift to the biggest transformation that one has ever felt take place with this methodology. And the last thing I'll say for now is that it's incredible for healing PTSD. So even if you've gone through severe traumas in life, I've seen people heal from things that they were trying to heal for 15, 20 years with a lot of different methods. And they came to this practice, and within 3 to 5 sessions, they were a completely different person, feeling really whole and well within themselves. So yeah, that's a tiny bit on it.
Thank you. I love that. So the Tara method, the Tara healing method, helps people track that which needs to be healed in their body, as you said. And so it's emotions that come from the trauma or the PSD. Isn't that interesting? What have you learned about that? Is it it could be memories, past life things, as you mentioned, but is it primarily the emotions that are attached to the traumas?
Yes, I mean, that's such a beautiful question, and I could speak to that for hours. So, in a nutshell, what I would say is that when we experience trauma, we lodge them into the patterning of our brain, our nervous system. It's very visceral in our body. But yes, certainly these emotions that are held from these traumas tend to keep us stuck in patterns. And all it takes is shifting some of that to kind of repattern how our brain, how our nervous system, how our body is working. And then we free ourselves of those past traumas. But until we come to techniques and methodologies to really get into that, we tend to repeat the same patterns over and over. So we repeat kind of a trauma loop in our life. So in the Tara method, we're kind of looking to see what the root cause is and to pull up those roots, dig them out, and release ourselves from them so that we become renewed. And inside of that, we really reconnect with our original blueprint, which is of light and love and divinity. And we kind of unwind those cords that kept us imprisoned. And it's so phenomenal to watch what happens to others. I'll add to this that I kind of came about this practice by working on myself. My spiritual teacher was amazing at bringing me within and helping me track my breath work and using shamanic tools to unlock all of this trauma that I had as a child. And then I carried on that work once I was done, practicing with my teacher, and kind of developed this body of work by healing the traumas that I had myself. So I can say firsthand that it's phenomenal for healing those trauma loops and getting us to reset in a way where we just don't repeat the same things anymore.
So what's that like as you began to heal yourself and find those patterns? How did you recognize that there were patterns? And then where did you find that? Like how did that reveal itself?
That's such a good question. Well, I came on my spiritual path at 17, and from 17 to 18, I kind of started to notice that I had patterns of self-sabotage, harming myself, self-inflicting pain, patterns that had to do with lack of self-worth, lack of self-love. And when I met my spiritual teacher at 18, he helped me to be more aware of those patterns, just kind of by seeing what I was repeating over and over again. And he would sit and reflect with me and help me to kind of just have that reflective energy to understand myself more. And what I uncovered in myself was that when we have traumas as a child, we tend to self-inflict the pain. So sometimes we act out, and we're angry and we retaliate against the world, but that's always harming ourselves no matter what. And more often, we're self-inflicting that pain. So I went from being a person who was constantly self-inflicting pain by reinventing traumatic relationships with others or the physical world around me, within my emotional mindset, my mental mindset. For me, part of what that looked like was I was always putting myself in danger, kind of grave danger. I was always out on an edge. And as I repatterned, I found that I could love myself and I could find self-worth by looking within and discovering that underneath all of that trauma was this beautiful little girl, that had been so hurt through her life. And so I learned to kind of take that child self, and this is a lot of what we do in the Tara method, and to bring her to the light, to support her, to walk hand in hand with her as the adult self, and to help her reconnect with the high self. And so in the Tara method, we work a lot with bridging this child self within us to our high self and helping our adult self learn to heal so that we're more in service to our high self, and we allow for that child self to then beam its original divine light and to be set free rather than thinking that we kind of have to repress that part of us. So yeah, for me, I would say it just led to me feeling whole. I used to feel so fragmented. I didn't really know myself, I was just walking along like most of us, just not knowing what I was doing, being kind of very unconscious with my actions. And the more I healed, the more I felt whole within myself. And when we have that wholeness, it's a lot easier to connect with spirit and bring in the light that, gets spoken of so often on all of these courses that we come to, or, the teachers that we come to, where we're talking about light and how do we really bring that in. And when we find that wholeness, it becomes so much more possible. So this is where we learn to really access the quantum field so that we're not just healing in this lifetime, but in many lifetimes. And we're healing beyond this dimension. So we're looking to heal throughout the dimensions that we exist within. And we're understanding that whatever we do here and now affects the whole. It's a very, very deep, beautiful, beautiful practice. And in so many ways, it really is as simple as accessing that energy field. We do that by opening the field of light. And as people are working on their healing, I'm kind of weaving in light with beings from beyond, family of light, ascended masters, the angels, the archangels, to hold that quantum field for us. And when we're in that space, what happens is that our healing doesn't have to be linear. It can take place instantly, and the transformations that we receive are so vast. So within a matter of minutes, or half an hour, an hour, and then the results that you see from that session that take place in the week and the month to come can be as though you were working on yourself for 30, 40, 50 years. And I really do mean that, because I've had so many people that are even, in their 40s all the way through their 80s. I've even had people in their 90s with me who have been, trying to access healing for so long. And then they come to this methodology, and we're working together in that quantum field, and those huge transformations take place. I know that sounds a little vague, but it's magic. Like so much of what we do in spiritual work, right? We access a field, and that magic takes place because we're coming with our intention and our desire to heal. And as we're opening that quantum field, we then work with checking in with our breath, with our nervous system, with our thoughts, with what we're feeling, with what our sensations are. We learn to track ourselves essentially, so that we're not stagnant and we're not in a linear sense of things, but we're really feeling and sensing and knowing into so many levels of our being. And as we do that, we find those epiphanies, and we find those huge pockets of energy that have been frozen and stuck, and we unlock them so that we're freed from whatever that was, whatever the pain or the source of disease or discord is within us. So we find these solutions really by coming into our own quantum energy field. And again, the space being held is so important, because a lot of people don't feel safe to do that kind of work on their own, which is understandable. To go to that work within ourselves can feel so scary. So when we're in the coursework, you're having space held for you. And if at any time you're feeling like it's too much, then, I'm there to kind of help you come back to the present moment, reassess where you are in time and space. And then we take it a little bit further, so that it's really a space where you feel safe and held.
There is a special offer that details the workshops that you have on these topics. So I invite our audience to scroll down on this webpage and check them out. So when you do your workshop on the Tara quantum healing, tell us a bit more about that for those who wish to sign up for it.
Yes. So we basically begin with a group share, which is always so powerful. I think a lot of what people are missing these days is that sense of belonging and that sense of working with others in the spiritual realm. So the shares are really important, just to kind of bring the group together. You have an opportunity to share what you're working on, what you feel you're trying to heal, what you're wanting to achieve within yourself, and how you want to feel in life. And then you get to listen to others. And there's something so powerful about realizing that you're not alone, because everybody has stuff that they're working on. And then we set an intention, we create a prayer, we then move within. The rest of the session, your eyes are closed. I can see you on video. And I start out with you're sitting up, and then you lie down. So we adjust your video so that I can see you lying down when we get to that point. And that helps me to see your auric field, to help track your breath. And then we go into that quantum healing experience. And at that time, believe it or not, there can be so many people within this, and I can kind of hop around and help each person to go deeper into that field of what they're working on. And you access your own healing from that place. As that's happening, I might at points reference your breath. I might say, for example, Lauren, Can you, see if you can breathe a little bit deeper into your upper chest? Or, Thomas, can you see if you can unlock your jaw a little bit? And so there's a way that I help you to track what's happening in your body and what's happening with your breath, and then to access the points of energy along your body that need to be worked with. And so that's a little bit on it. Again, there's so much about it that is just that pure magical state that takes place when we're being guided in shamanic healing. And the quantum healing that takes place is always phenomenal. So I would just encourage you all, if you're interested, to take a look at the format. If it calls to you, please go ahead and sign up. Interviews can be interesting because there's so much that you want to say and share. And I hope it's given you a sense. The last thing I want to say on it is just to kind of reference again that no matter what you've gone through, it can be healed. And I truly have worked with people that, believed they could not heal, people out of human trafficking, even just people that have gone through the worst things that a human or a child or a baby could ever endure. And yet inside of this work, it will heal. So if you are looking for healing, whether it's something, very simple or something really, really big that you need to heal, I want to really encourage you to come and work with me, because I promise you this work is phenomenal and it will carry forth into the rest of your life and help to set you free.
Well, that's a beautiful workshop that you have planned for that. That is the Tara Quantum Healing. And again, we invite those to just scroll down and check that one out. Is there anything you want to add on the duration of this? Can people, if they can't join it live, will it be recorded and those things?
Yes, it will be recorded. There's 5 live classes, and then there's 2 that are recorded for people to watch, but all 5 of those that are live are also recorded. So if you can't make it live, you can certainly join in. Each session also includes, if you would like, a free 20-minute one-on-one with me. And that helps you just to kind of have that even safer space to speak what you might feel too vulnerable to speak on the group. Usually people feel pretty comfortable, but that is available to you as well.
Well, I absolutely love that because this is a great value. All of those sessions with you, the interface time with you is very beneficial and very helpful. And so, you know, people, when they go through that healing process, they may not need to necessarily relive any of the trauma, right? Or
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
the quantum aspect of it?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Would you like me to speak a little bit on that for a few minutes or?
That would
Okay.
be great.
Okay. Yes, because that's a very, very great point that you're making. Inside of this work, what's so phenomenal is that sometimes you don't need to relive any of what you went through, and sometimes you need to feel some of the sensations, some of the bodily sensations, the nervous system shifting. You may need to cry a little bit, or let some sound out. But it is not that you have to go back and relive the full breadth of what you went through, because in quantum healing, that's not what we're trying to do. So it's so different than, say, talk therapy, which so many of us are familiar with, where we sat with the counselor and we talked through over and over again, and we tried to get into a deeper state to relive what we went through until somehow it discharges. But this is very different because it works with the understanding that all we need to do is find the point of the root and to lift it out of us. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's very different in that sense.
Yes, all right. I love that. And so, again, those who are feeling into that, no matter what that trauma is, it doesn't have to be giant stuff. It could be little things that we are not even aware of, like something our parents said to us that was seemingly innocuous, but just created something within us. So I find that very beneficial and very helpful for those who really want to clean up because we all have trauma. We all have trauma. That's becoming very clear. It's just our conscious awareness on that trauma is a lot of the work. And that's what you're helping to do in that workshop. So thank you for that.
We dive really deep into your healing. So everything that we've already spoken of in the realm of the Tara quantum healing is very much what you would experience on this course. And I'll also say the price is phenomenal because I'm offering it for $77. And this is really just to kind of introduce the work that I do within this realm here on the network and to support this beautiful, venue that Lauren and the team here have created. And normally it costs a lot more, and the one-on-ones cost quite a bit. And so you get to experience all of that work within the course. And again, that one is the 7 days. So 5 live classes, 2 recordings. In those recordings, I dive really deeply into the methodology, and I guide you through that healing practice that you can do on your own so that you have that healing for the rest of your life. I'll also add that this is something that I'm ready to begin teaching others to do. It's kind of been in the works for a while. So if you are called to do healing work, or you already do healing work and you come on board with this and it feels as phenomenal to you as what I'm speaking of, and you're interested in becoming a facilitator of it, then that is possible as well.
I know people really would love to, because they do this work on themselves, they want to share it with others. They want to take it out into the world. And this is actually offering them an opportunity down the road to add it to their healing arts repertoire so that they can earn a living being in service in this way. So thank you. That's really very, very beautiful. And again, I just want to say the breathwork courses that you do, those are lengthy and very comprehensive. And these courses are a fraction of that price. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited, and I want to thank you for offering these courses at such a nice introductory price, because it's a no-brainer for those who are watching to check it out and to be a part of it and to learn these skills. We can use them not only on ourselves, but for our loved ones as well.
Yeah.
And even, I don't know, our animals or our loved ones, definitely.
Very much so. And the other thing that I'll just add to with that is that, of course, the more we're whole and the more we carry that healing energy, the more we naturally help others to heal, and that can be our pets as well, because they feel the difference in us. And we also learn a huge amount in the way of how to deal with traumas in the moment. So we're not just healing what's already happened, but, say something as simple but as traumatic as you go to the grocery store and someone in front of you was really kind of mean, and you go to get in your car and you notice that your heart is trembling and you're thinking, maybe you just spent all week in meditation and you were inward and you were feeling great, but all it takes is that one little thing out there in the world that has your nervous system kind of collapsing in. And maybe, you retaliate and you get mean and you get mad, and then you judge yourself on that. So there's that ripple effect, right? And so we learn how to access the healing in the moment, to reset our nervous system over and over again so that things just become easier to deal with, that we become more capable of what we're going to interface with and how we interact with that, and also what we attract to ourselves. Because again, the more we're whole, the more we're carrying that healing energy, the more we're going to allow others to feel at ease and to feel safe with us. And of course, if we need to get strong and mighty, then we can get strong and mighty. We can set those boundaries. And, so we learn kind of a wide range of what our wholeness might look like. It never looks like just one thing. It doesn't always look like we're just suddenly, Buddha-like and serene. It looks like we're very whole, and we can choose how we interact from that place of being conscious.
Well, it's got a large range of tools for us in this process. And it's very, again, beautiful because our awareness of it is, I would say, 90% of the work, right? When we become aware of, say, for example, you mentioned someone in a grocery store could treat us ill and it would ruin our day. So this is the vibrational conditioning. This is us being very aware of our vibration and learning to use these tools that bring us back into a wholeness. And you had mentioned patterns. So when we get triggered like that, or when one person over here, seemingly unrelated to any of us, can tip us over and make us spill over into rage or sadness or despair, is that revealing a pattern of something else? Or how would you describe that? Could it just be a number of things?
Yes, very often, in my experience of it anyway. We learn how to track, say we did get triggered by that person in the grocery store, and in the moment we just think that's just that. Why are we so triggered? But we learn how to track and realize, oh, there was a time, for example, when I was little and somebody yelled at me and it shut me down. And that little child within us is the one that is feeling so unsafe and so unwell. So sometimes it's that we learn to track, and sometimes we find another thing to bring up to the light to heal. And sometimes it's just that we're very sensitive beings, as light beings, and our nervous systems are going to feel those energies. So, it's just about then how do we deal with that? And sometimes we need to have those little breakdowns in our system so that we can repair on a deeper level. So it's not always that if we, in that moment have a hard time, that that's just going to be, the end of the world. It's kind of like building muscle. Sometimes we tear it down in order to build it up more. So sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to have those breakdowns, because oftentimes as spiritual beings, don't we think we're supposed to just be perfect? We think we're just supposed to always have a smile, and we never get upset. But sometimes actually we need to let that come up in us because it's deep down inside of us, or the energy that's come in was that. So it's then how do we get it out, and how do we deal with that in healthier and healthier ways? And then we become more capable to build community, because in spiritual crowds, right, in the tribes around the world, everybody talks about the oneness and the being community. But how often do we see it be the case that people can't even really get along? And part of why I decided to bring this work online and kind of strengthen how much I bring forward is because I will tell you, and maybe this isn't the case for any of you and you haven't seen this, but I have so often seen it that I go to, say, a spiritual gathering, or I'm somewhere in the world where people are talking about the love and the light. But what's really going on in the dynamics is a lot of messy, a lot of underbelly of darkness going on, a lot of trauma that's bouncing around, and people are triggering each other. And it's very hard for spiritual community to often get along for a long period of time. It's one thing to come in to community for an hour, and then it's like, oh, we're all here beaming our light. But this gives us the tools to build that wider community long term that everybody's looking for. Because when we're whole and others are becoming more whole, then we can get along. And that's my hope. My hope for humanity and for the spiritual awakening movement is that we learn to have the tools, to work through those triggers and to be present.
Can you share some cases in point that have benefited from this process?
Yes, I mean, so many come to mind, so I'm going to choose two, one male, one female. So I have a dear client who I will say this is a little bit sad to hear, a little bit graphic, and holding him to the light as I share his story a little. He, as an adult, had a lot of negative patterning going on. He was a very spiritual person. He seemed to be doing all the right things. He was meditating, he was eating well, he was exercising, he was focusing on gratitude, but he still was a very traumatically disturbed human being. And he couldn't be around people much without just totally flipping out and melting down. And one day something happened to him that kind of jarred a memory. And he began to remember that he thought he had been seriously abused by his father as a baby and as a toddler. And he came to me with I believe that I was abused, but I'm not sure. I've never, had these memories arise. And so we began to do this Tara quantum healing work. And I told him that probably within 5 to 7 sessions, he would, find this huge wholeness, and then he'd have these tools to work for. And we went into that healing. In session 1, he began to connect with the memories. And indeed, he had been horribly abused. In fact, he had been raped by his father, his biological father, even as a baby. And so inside of drawing up these memories and him being able to feel safe, if you can imagine, with that depth of terrifying memory, surfacing from being such a small being, we were able to get into that healing state. What it looked like eventually inside of those sessions, and it was 7 sessions. We did 5, and then we did 2 more later on. Was his body shaking, quivering. There was certainly some crying, some guttural sounds, and interwoven in there was his human self speaking to and referencing the experience and drawing it to the light, where he could then understand what the thoughts and the emotions were that imprinted him so deeply that he had indeed been living his whole life, based on this trauma. And so as that energy released and he would come off of the healing table, each time he looked lighter and brighter, his eyes got bright, the way he carried himself was completely different. And he would express feeling that. And after we had done several sessions, he really expressed feeling this wholeness that I speak to. His aura looked so bright. A lot of times when I'm working with people, I'll see the auric field. And I think we can all kind of see the energy that people carry, and you can see as people heal, the way they just look lighter, and they begin to smile, and the shoulders lift, the heart opens, and he just completely transformed. And to this day, he's doing great. He was previously not capable of even really like working much, and again, like being social. He's currently out on a world tour. He's traveling the globe. He's writing a book. He has some online platform of products that he works with now. So he's thriving. He's within his soul purpose now. So that's Michael. And now I'll reference Bethany. So Bethany came to me actually originally for couples healing. And she was a woman that was kind of in and out of relationships. She always attracted to her the bad guys, the guys that were gonna, hurt her, abuse her, hit her, alcoholics, and so on and so forth. She knew that she had incurred a huge trauma in her early 20s. She was in her late 30s. And she had lived from that trauma all the way through to her late 30s, just kind of stumbling through life. She was rather a wreck when I met her, just beautiful, beautiful soul, but suffering so much. She had a lot of issues of addiction to, again, the bad relationships, but also alcohol and drugs herself. But inside of her, I saw this beautiful gem of a being, and brought her into the healing. And she spoke to, what it was she went through in her early 20s. She had been kidnapped when she went on a trip to Brazil, and she had been given some sort of maybe date rape drug, and she was taken into human trafficking. She barely escaped with her life. She was one of the few, that manages to escape out of that. She had endured just unbelievably horrible things for months and months and months at the hands of this being. And because of that, she was left so deeply, deeply scarred. And she had never found a way to heal it. She had been in counseling. She'd done, Reiki and different healing. She'd gone on retreat. She'd even done some of the medicines, ayahuasca and so on and so forth, but nothing had healed her. And inside of the Tara methodology, again, within a week of working with her, she found that wholeness. And similarly, what that looked like, on the table and in that quantum field, was her feeling safe enough to dive deep into those memories and to just get them at the root level so that her body could shake and quiver and she could, cry some and scream and let out just the energy level and the emotional level. So not being stuck in the loop of here's what happened and living that through and counseling hour after hour, year after year, but getting to that root and working with that shamanic field. I remember her often speaking of feeling that she was in a very altered state. And that's often what people will express is like, wow, I've never gotten to that state without, say, doing a substance. So there's something within this work and the field that gets opened up and the energy that I'm holding with people that gets to that really deep, almost psychedelic kind of nature that is our true nature, that unlocks those deeper energies within us. And with Beth, same thing. She's thriving. She's in a healthy relationship. She has a stable job, which she had never been able to hold all those years. And these people, both Beth and Michael and all the people that I've worked with over the years, their sentiments on this work is just that they feel so grateful, to have found the wholeness. And when traumas occur for them in the day-to-day, those, shopping center experiences that I referenced and so on, they have the tools, so they're not just stumbling through life anymore. They're able to cope with what our world is and to address those things and to feel differently. Inside of this work, you can experience anything and everything that you need to in the realm of your healing, in the realm of your relationships as well with, partner, children, parents, coworkers. Anything and everything is possible. The value is so massive because each day we're going to dive deeper. And, we start out again with the shares, and each day you then get to share with the group what your progress has been. Where do you feel you are? What else are you weaving in? New understandings? Is there something new that's arisen to be healed or worked with? And so that group container becomes stronger and stronger. And what I experience is that people then really become community. I usually put together a WhatsApp thread afterwards so that people stay together, and that gives that place to kind of feel supported, to lean into your healing into the future. You leave with a basket full of phenomenal tools, again, for that day-to-day process of how do we deal with the stresses of daily life and our relationships. And also, you're going to experience healing on a quantum level. And I can never promise anything, because as always, it's up to the individual and what you're calling up and what's meant to take place. But I can say that in general, people always have a really, really profound healing experience. Lauren, as you mentioned at the end of my share of the 2 examples, even if your trauma isn't as big as those 2 that I gave those to just kind of lean into that. Even if you've experienced something massively traumatic and you have some doubt on whether it can heal, it can within this work. But it's not to invalidate or belittle any trauma that anyone has gone through, because just as you referenced, Lauren, it can be the most simple thing that happened to us as a child, and we experience it as pain and trauma, and we misplace our wholeness and our identifying with ourselves when we're having these traumas go on. And all trauma is the same. It doesn't matter how big what we've gone through is or seemingly how small, it's all that same pain body. So please, if whatever it is you're working with, don't think that, it's too little to bring to this body of work, because we all, need healing. So, whatever you're bringing to it is what will be perfect. And also often people find as they begin to unravel this deep healing work is that there are deeper things. And it doesn't mean there's something as vast as, what I spoke to, but sometimes there's just deeper layering within us that we get to uncover. And sometimes that's past lives. So just to reference that a little bit, that inside of this work, we really can access that in a deep, profound way. So it's more than just, as the example Sometimes we'll feel like, oh, I think in this previous life, my throat chakra got shut down because I was, a king, and people didn't like what I was saying, so then that it's vague, it's like a little bit mental, it's a little bit in the logic. But in this work, when we're accessing the past lives, it becomes very visceral, it becomes very alive within us. So we can kind of grasp our past lives in a much deeper way and bring them into healing.
Yes, you bring up a good point, the visceralness that we feel. And that really is indicative of how we literally are carrying this in our cellular structure, in our physical bodies. So, can you speak in our final question? Can you speak to the importance of feeling into the body and really understanding and listening to the body?
Yes, definitely. So, for so many of us growing up, we began to kind of shut off the full feeling within us and the full expressiveness of our bodies. We began to be more stiff, to try to take up less space. We were less dynamic than when we were children, certainly. And then as we became adults, many of us had a tendency to kind of separate from the body, to go away from the body, to not be fully in the body, and also to not want to feel our emotions, to feel like we shouldn't get sad or angry or need to cry, but also that we weren't really free to feel fully joyful, and to laugh and to play and to make jokes and to smile. So many of us, and more as we see in the world, a lot of people are pretty shut down. A lot of people are walking around just very kind of stern and lacking in expression and very stiff in their body. And so in this work, we learn to open the expressiveness of our body. We learn to open the fascia, which is such an important part of us that gets really stuck over time. And we can think of our fascia as what's under our skin. If we touch our skin and we kind of move it, and there's this beautiful fluid in there, and it gets rigid over time. So we learn to open that in the healing work, and then our body begins to feel more alive. We begin to open the cellular energy within us so that on that level, we're not just walking around kind of half alive, but our cells begin to beam with light again, as they did when we were children. And so a lot of what we're doing is we're unraveling everything so that we can access that full aliveness that we had as children. So we could also reference this work. Part of the way I reference it is to heal the inner child, to heal and awaken that energy, to remember how to feel joy, bliss and ecstasy, and the sadness, the full breadth of everything that we're capable of feeling as humans, and to release a lot of that stagnancy that we've been walking through in life. I can say for myself that has been phenomenal, and that was a lot of my goal. And again, I was only 17 when I got on my spiritual path, but in my teen years, I got more and more rigid and shut down, and I didn't feel I could express myself. I felt I had to be very just kind of almost stoic. And when I got on my spiritual path, one of the things I realized was I wanted to remember what it felt like when I was little, not the traumas. I wanted to heal those, but the times when I could remember laughing and playing and joking. And then as I began to observe others, as I came into doing this healing work, I realized that was such a huge key. It's just that people need to remember how to awaken that inner light. A lot of the work I do in person gets even more dynamic. And so, if you do the work and that calls to you, I'll just reference that a tiny bit. And also just things that I give you to do when you're on course is to get playful. Here in Hawaii, where I live in the Hawaiian Islands, I take people to jump off little cliffs into waterfalls, and to swim in the fresh water, to be with the dolphins and the whales, to go on a rope swing, to just learn how to play, kick your feet in the water and splash and kid around with each other. And what takes place is absolutely phenomenal. So that's also part of what we do in the coursework is I get you to just kind of free up your expression some. And you can be on video or you can be off video if you don't want to be seen by others, but I get you to kind of do silly things like open your jaw really big and stick out your tongue because that generates healing. To squish your face up, to wiggle around, to jump around, to purposefully laugh. And there's all kinds of exercises that we do to get you to kind of tap into what is your divine way of being that is that more playful child, because we're all different, and to remember that is such a gem. And I feel like it's so much of what people want, it's not what we always can consciously realize we want on the spiritual path until we hear these kinds of words or they kind of occur within. But I'm imagining that speaks to many of you, to awaken that child light, and to be able to do that is so profound.
Mhm. I think we are all ready to awaken our inner light and to remember our joy and live in that way. It feels so buoyant and bubbly and fun. And yeah, as we were saying, this world has done a lot to deter us from that and to put responsibility on our shoulders that takes us away from that. So this is a welcome return back to joy and love and passion. And I know that the exercises that you share will really put people on this path as well. And what an incredible time for people to work with you, Taya. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Taya. Any last thing that you'd like to share on this?
Just that I want to welcome all of you. The more, the better. I'd really love to build a beautiful container together. And also, if you just have more questions or you have doubts in any way, you can always email me and kind of create that one-on-one connection.
What a beautiful opportunity you all have to work with Taya and to work with these beautiful energy healing techniques. Tara, quantum healing, it awaits you, and we hope that you too are excited and you can feel your joy returning as you awaken your inner light. Taya, thank you, thank you, thank you for this show today. We are so grateful.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. Aloha from Hawaii.
Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Raine Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.